Greetings, students, and welcome to this special edition of The Professor Travel Domestic Edition. I am your host, The Professor Travel, coming to you from Southern California. This is the website, the vlog, and the podcast that you come to in order to learn more about different travel destinations. This is where we come as a community in order to discuss them. Hopefully, this will inspire you to travel more and ultimately to enjoy life more. Now, you can reach me at a variety of different social media platforms, including but not limited to my website, which is at theprofessortravel.com, on YouTube, on Facebook, and now on TikTok. You can reach me at The Professor Travel. If you're an Instagrammer, you can find me there at the_professor_travel. If you're a Twitterer, you can find me on Twitter at TheProfessorTR1. And if you're a blogger, you can find me on Blogspot at theprofessortravel.blogspot.com. Today, my visiting professor comes to us from the great state of Arkansas, Ashley Lambert. How are you, Ashley?
I'm very well, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. We've been trying to get this coordinated for a while, and I really appreciate it. I know you're very busy, so I'm gonna try and keep us to a schedule here. But for the benefit of my students, I wanted to just ask you a little bit about your credentials, maybe a little bit about your educational background, and maybe some places that you traveled before.
Sure. I received my undergraduate degree in criminal justice here in the state of Arkansas at Southern Arkansas University. I have a master's degree in public administration, and I received my Juris Doctorate from Arizona Summit Law School. I practiced criminal law for about 3 years, and then now I'm currently a criminal justice program chair and instructor at Shorter College, which is an HBCU here in Arkansas.
Well, congratulations on that, by the way. I am so proud of you for that. And again, to the students out there, the focus of this is on the great state of Arkansas. So I know very little about Arkansas, Ashley. So I was wondering if you can share some information in terms of history and the things that you know about the state of Arkansas.
Sure. So as you can tell, or if you can assume, Arkansas is a southern state. It was part of the Confederacy. Strangely enough, though, during Reconstruction, during Reconstruction, many slaves from the East migrated to Arkansas. Let's see.
Was there a reason for that, by the way?
Well, I don't know, but if I'm just going to take an educated guess, not really knowing the direction or how far west to go or north to go, many stopped in Arkansas. Arkansas is it's full of fertile land. You can easily farm here in Arkansas, especially along the Delta region. So that's what I would assume.
Okay.
So just a little known fact, many people don't know, Arkansas was once part of the Louisiana Territory.
Okay.
It was part of the Louisiana Purchase, and there's the actual site where the inventory was taken for assets and property during the Louisiana Purchase was here in Arkansas, in a small town right outside of West Helena, Arkansas.
Okay.
So moving forward in history, we have the, and I'm going to save it for most of it for later on, the Civil Rights Movement. One of the monumental movements was, as you're probably aware of, the Little Rock Central integration. Also in a small town called Elaine, Arkansas. Many people know about Black Wall Street, but they don't know that a similar occurrence happened in Elaine, Arkansas. very predominant Black community, thriving, professionals. Over 200 people, Black people, were killed.
It's a harsh reality, and the thing about it is that a lot of people in the white privileged community that I'm part of, unfortunately, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We're starting to learn a little bit more about the history of the African American community because of some things that are going on in, of all things, the entertainment industry. We're starting to see things in shows like Watchmen and Lovecraft Country, where it's talking about things like what happened in Oklahoma, and then now we're or in Tulsa specifically, and now we're starting to learn about other places as well. And we're like, we never knew this. This was not in our history books as we were growing up.
Sad thing is, as history goes, many of us, unless you're, like me, I like to read and, watch videos and documentaries on this. many of us don't know, because that obviously was not, and I can understand why, if I'm from looking from the other side, was not in the history books. Yeah.
It's just tragic, but it's one of those things I think that as time is going on, we're starting to see the African American community reclaim that knowledge and share that with the rest of the of us here in the country, and to the benefit of us that know this, it makes for I think a better communication between the communities. So when you understand it, you
Yeah.
can understand a little bit more about the play. We can't obviously experience it, and I can't stand in anyone's shoes. But at the
Right.
same time, it's one of those things where if we can shut up and listen, then we can
Right.
understand a little bit more
You know
about
what?
what's going on.
That'll go a long way on many, many issues, not just race relations.
It's
Just
just
shut up and listen. Yeah.
yeah, I know, right? My husband says that all the time, so believe me, I get
Right.
it.
Right.
No, I'm just
Maybe
kidding.
I'll still be married if that was the case, but
Well, let's talk a little bit about the beautiful state, and talk to me a
Mhm.
little bit about the geography of the area. I have a couple pictures on here. By the way, for those of you listening on the podcast, you obviously want to come over to the YouTube channel so you can see some of the lovely pictures that are on here as well. Share with me some of the just what it's like living in the state like Arkansas.
Well, I will say this. Although Arizona is a beautiful place,
Mhm.
I miss home. I miss Arkansas.
Yeah.
The trees, the greenery. Um, uh, I missed the change of seasons. Fall is so beautiful. My backyard, the leaves are, orange, red, purple. The landscape. So in southern Arkansas, where I'm from, people consider it the rolling hills.
Okay.
You know, it's very, up and down. In northwest Arkansas, you have the Ouachita Mountains. It's actually a great deal of northwest Arkansas is mountainous. There's a little town called Eureka Springs. Many
Okay.
people know about Hot Springs, but Eureka Springs is in the mountains. It's right before you get to Missouri.
Okay.
Um, it's very scenic. Arkansas, and I know I'm kind of partial, but truthfully speaking, um, it's a very beautiful place. And it's interesting because once you go to drive further east, it's very flat.
Okay.
It's when you get closer to the Delta region, which the Delta region, when I refer to the Delta, I'm talking about the regions along the Mississippi River.
Okay.
Okay, that's the Delta region. So it's very flat out there. So you get a variety of scenes and terrain in the state of Arkansas, just like the weather. You don't know what you're gonna get from one day to the other.
And,
Um,
and for the benefit of the students that are listening, Ashley and myself, we met in Arizona, and that's why she had made mention. It's a little bit different than Arizona, obviously, with the deserts over there. You have now. It can get hot though at certain times of the year in Arkansas, but it's
yeah.
a different type of heat. You're dealing with a lot more humidity there.
Yeah, you are dealing with humidity, and I'm going to be PC and say um, is an indigenous summer. They call it. If can I say it?
Sure.
They call it an Indian summer.
Okay.
So basically, the weather, and I don't know where the phrase come from, but the weather can be temperature wise 100 degrees, but the humidity will make it feel like 115, and you're sticky. So it can get really hot. I believe the dry heat in Phoenix and Arkansas, the humidity, it's a trade-off,
Yeah.
really.
It's just
Uh,
I think it's like one of those things that you have to really know how to dress. You have to know how to stay cool. Like when we were in Arizona, if I had a awning outside my house, I could stay in the heat even if it was 120, because then
right.
when I was under that awning, all of a sudden it was 20 degrees less. But when you're in a humid environment like Arkansas, Louisiana, Florida,
Mhm,
Hawaii, Thailand, places
mhm.
like that, it permeates all around you. It almost feels like you're swimming in it, and so it's a very different kind of heat.
Right. Correct. Now, if we're talking about bordering states, am I saying
Yeah,
that? Okay.
absolutely.
So the states that border Arkansas is Louisiana is directly south of Arkansas.
Mhm.
You have Alabama, which is southeast of Arkansas.
Okay.
Mississippi is central. I mean, it's just to the east of Arkansas, like in the middle.
Okay.
And then Tennessee is on the northeast corner of Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then you have Missouri, which is directly north of Arkansas,
Mhm.
and Oklahoma, which is northwest of Arkansas,
Wow.
and then Texas, which is on the west side of Arkansas.
There are so many states that border Arkansas.
Right?
That's
You never think about that, right?
no, I hadn't. I mean, because I live in California, and so for me, it's just either Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, or Mexico around us, and that's it. So, but you have like 7 states that border you.
We do really. It takes from Little Rock, which I'm from the Little Rock. I live in the Little Rock metro area, really outside. It takes about 2 hours for me to get to Memphis.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not that's actually not that bad, actually, if I
No.
think about it. Because I
Right.
mean, in Arizona, it would take us hours to get to either Las Vegas or Southern
I
California.
know.
So-
I hate people say, "Oh, that's not that bad. You're close to um Vegas." I'm like, not really, but okay.
yeah, maybe by flight. That's about it.
I
So
know.
then let's move into the weather. Again, we talked a little bit about it, but some of the extreme conditions though that can happen. Obviously, you
Okay.
guys do get tornadoes. You guys do get some flooding. You guys do get coarse winters and maybe even some
Right.
hurricanes from time to time. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, so as far as ice, it's
Yeah.
it's weird. Climate change is serious. It's real. I mean, real. It happens. Because as long as I can remember, we've probably had a real deep snow maybe 5 times, but we get ice. And then on top of that ice, we get a thin layer of snow. That's what makes it so dangerous. Um, and the reason why I mentioned climate change is because I remember my dad saying, and a fifth grade teacher of mine saying that when they were little, it snowed all the time. It was nothing to get 7, 8 inches of snow, but now it's ice. So we have ice storms. And you're right, we do have tornadoes. I do not. One thing I'm not looking forward to is tornado season because I
Yeah.
just moved back here from New Mexico, and I I could easily say I don't miss tornado season. Um, and whenever there's a hurricane south of us, we get the remnants of that. We get the wind gusts. But we don't get the strongness of an hurricane. Of course, the levels go down, the degrees go down. But yeah, you pretty much have it. Rain, but it's beautiful. It's
Well, at least during the year. I do want to ask though a really quick question because here in California we have and I imagine everywhere else. So I want to run this by you too. Like whenever we have earthquakes here in California, it's like what would be like a catastrophic earthquake on the East Coast where people are like,
Mhm.
it's a 4.0, the house is shaking, we're gonna all die. Over here, that barely even gets my attention. And like, unless it's a 6.5 or something that knocks me out of bed, I
Yeah.
won't even pay attention. That being said, with other weather phenomena in your area, like with tornadoes and stuff like that, I've talked with people like in Louisiana and Texas where they've said, "Oh, it's just a tornado, no big deal." I'm like, "No big deal." That like would lift my house. I would freak out if I thought there was a tornado. Is there like are you really like concerned about like some of the weather phenomenons in your area?
I see what they're saying about the tornadoes. No big deal because we get them. There could be a tornado and it could be so light we don't know it,
Yeah.
right? Um,
And,
only time,
and we had dust devils in Arizona. I mean, it wasn't like that bad.
right? Exactly. Only time what really makes a okay, yeah. So tornadoes, uh, we're not really just too concerned about them. We're concerned, but it's not the level of concern that you would probably have if there was a tornado
Yeah.
in California.
Yeah, that would freak me out if there was a tornado like right around my house. I think
Right.
we wouldn't know what to do.
Yes, but one interesting thing, there is something called the Meridian Fault Line. Okay, it's along the border of Meridian, Arkansas, and Meridian, Mississippi,
Okay.
and it's one of the recorded, strongest earthquakes. On record. So there are like very small seismic earthquakes. I remember having one. We actually felt it before I moved to Phoenix, so around 2011 or 10.
Okay.
So we have very small occurrences, but it's so rare. So you can say Arkansas can kind of get all of the major, you know,
If it happens, it
earth
happens.
shattering. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to culture. Culture is one of my favorite things to talk about because there's
Yes.
so much wonderful things to talk about. It seems
Yes.
like the religions within the area either fluctuate. I mean, there's a variety of different religions, it seems, within the state, but the Southern Baptist Convention is obviously one of the bigger ones. There's also a lot of Native American within the general region as well. But are there any others that are like super prominent to you?
Yes. So you said you're Southern Baptist. You have your Church of Christ,
Mhm.
and your Church of God in Christ. Those are the ones that I grew up seeing around my small town of only about 11,000 plus.
Okay.
Were those four? They're really predominant. Oh, and actually, Kingdom Hall, Jehovah's
Oh
Witnesses.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But they're everywhere. Um, yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head with the Southern Baptist.
Yeah, I think that's one of the bigger locations for the Southern Baptist Convention.
Yeah.
What about in terms of art? And when I think about art, I think of either painters, sculptors, dancers, fine artists, writers, or actors and singers.
So, as far as art, growing up, dance was a big thing. I think clogging is a real Southern thing. Everybody else, oh, tap, tap, tap. I'm aware of tap dancing, but clogging was a huge thing growing up, and gymnastics
Mhm.
is big.
Oh, nice.
And now it's more so contemporary dance. You will see in cheer. I don't know how to describe it, but have you seen Bring It?
Oh yeah, bring it. Yeah, or
Okay, so
bring it on.
that's
Bring it on. Yeah,
huge in the South.
yeah.
That's huge. And as far as actors, oh, interesting thing. Okay, we talked about Mary Steenburgen, and if I think I'm pronouncing it right,
Very steam version. Yeah,
Steenburgen.
yeah.
Yeah, she's from North Arkansas. I mean, excuse me, Little Rock, Arkansas. She went to North Little Rock High School. That's why I
Okay.
was. You have Billy Bob Thornton.
Of course.
You have Johnny Cash is from a place called Kingman, Arkansas, which is, if you're familiar with Pine Bluff, maybe not, but let's just say it's about an hour and a half north of where I'm from, which is Magnolia, Arkansas. He's from Arkansas. We have Al Green.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Joe Jackson.
Okay.
He's from Arkansas. People like Conway Twitty. He's from Arkansas.
Oh.
Yeah. You have Neo from
Oh.
Arkansas. Everybody knows that President Bill Clinton is from Arkansas. And then the former editor in chief and creator of Ebony and Jet magazine is from Arkansas.
Okay.
And Willie Ray, he played Dolomite. That guy, if you know who Dolomite is, he's from a place called Forest City, Arkansas. He's a comedian. He's probably cult famous,
Okay.
but yeah. But yeah, so
That's awesome, though. I mean, I'm getting an education because I didn't know a lot of the people were from Arkansas, except for, of course, Bill Clinton, which I think is like kind of a given.
yeah.
So now, in terms of the language in the area, it's predominantly English. There's not a lot of Spanish or French influence in the area.
No.
Okay, but occasionally you'll have Native American within the area, and of course, then maybe there's some Native American tongue, but it's primarily English, no matter what.
Right.
Anyways.
Great. Can I add this little piece?
Please, by all means, yeah.
As far as the arts, I don't know why I missed this, but the blues, rhythm and blues was actually born in the Delta area, Arkansas, Mississippi, and you had people who spent many of their time here, such as B.B. King, the song Lucille, and his it originated from a fight that broke out when B.B. King was performing in West Memphis, Arkansas, and the place caught on fire. He and others ran out, and he ran back in to get guitar.
Guitar. Yeah.
Right? And and it was amazing that a wonder that he made it out. And the next day he found out that the fight broke out over a woman named Lucille. So that's where they come from.
Good information. This is history that we're talking about. Okay, let's move into one of my favorite topics, which is diet and food. Now, when I think of Arkansas, the things that stand out to me are soul food, Southern cooking, catfish, hush puppies, things like that. But those aren't necessarily distinctively Arkansas, as you may
Mhm.
mention before
Mhm.
we started recording.
Right. So I would say those are distinctive for the Delta region.
Okay.
Delta region meaning Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Memphis, uh, you know, those areas. Of course, you have your Carolinas, but I would say those are, I would say originators or births from these areas. Now, one thing that's also prominent around here is crawfish.
Mm.
You have crawfish. You have all types of seafood boils. I'm getting just excited thinking about it. Gumbo. Your red beans and rice. Yeah, your red beans and rice and everything. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that
Okay. So now,
alligator.
alligator, really?
So, as I didn't mention this earlier, but it's very swampy here, especially in South Arkansas, Central Arkansas, and the Mississippi area. You have and people don't think about this in relation to Arkansas, your alligators.
Yeah.
So yeah, alligator it's great.
Yeah, I've had alligator poppers before, like little fried up alligator with like dipping sauces and stuff like that. But I don't know like how you get it prepared typically. So
Right on the stick.
right on a stick.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's awesome. Now, in terms of the sports teams within your area, not any necessarily professional teams as per se, but college teams rule the land. It seems in Arkansas.
Yes, yes. College teams rule the land in Arkansas, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi. Arkansas, yes. Well, one reason being we don't have a professional team,
Mhm.
but I think the support would be just as great if we did have a professional team. Woo pig suey. We love our
Of
Razorbacks.
course.
And then you have, I guess, a minor league, the Diamonds, I believe.
Okay.
Um,
Are
and
they
then you
related?
have,
Are they like a farm team for
it's
another
a
major league?
baseball team.
Are like maybe related to the Diamondbacks or?
Yes. Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I know I'm supposed to be the expert on this, but I
No,
don't
no, no. It's
know.
okay. We're not going to delve into stuff that you're not, like an expert on. So that's fine. And then, to the best of your knowledge, though, there's no state holidays that pop out to you or anything like that, right?
No, there's no state holiday. Well, Daisy Bates. I didn't think about this.
Mm,
Daisy Bates Day. Daisy Bates was the organizer, or one of the organizer of the Little Rock Nine. She took care of them. She she was a liaison as far as uh, the government and deciding how things were going to be handled when it came to the children, integrating Little Rock Central High School.
okay.
So
Do you
you
know?
have a Daisy Bates Day.
Do you know when that it occurs? What time of year?
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm hopeful because the
that's
school that I actually teach at,
yeah.
she graduated from. That's her alma mater.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So I imagine there's probably like a lot of like, or do they actually have uh, like memoriam information about her at the school itself, or?
And yes, they do. They do. I need to take time out to read it, but yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the population of the state of Arkansas. So do you know about how big the state of Arkansas is population wise?
No, I don't, but I can find out by the end of this. By the end of this, I will
Okay.
know. Mhm.
Let's take a look really quick on the map here. There's a large like red area which indicates high population density right in the center there. Do you know what that is?
Yes, that is the Little Rock metro area.
Okay.
So Little Rock is the capital of Arkansas.
Okay. And then up in
Mhm.
this area in the northwest corner.
So that's what I like to call Razorback country.
Okay.
So that would be your Fayetteville, Bentonville, Blytheville area. That's also one explanation for the high population there, a higher population there, is because you have your industry, Walmart, JB Hunt, that's where I know those two are located. So that's where a lot of the jobs are.
Oh, and speaking of which, let's talk about the economy. You mentioned Walmart, you mentioned JB Hunt. Um, Tyson farms are obviously very big in your area.
Uh-huh.
Dillard's, as we may mention, University of Arkansas hires a lot of people as well, and Windstream, the RV company, hires a lot and they produce a lot within the state.
Right.
Any other large employers within your state that pop out to you, or are those pretty much the biggest employers within the state?
Those are the biggest, but I know there's a Pilgrim's Pride, which is a Tyson, like Tyson.
Their
I know
competitor?
that used to be really big. Yes. Um, um, no, I know in my small town there's one of the few bromine producing plants,
Hmm.
in the country that is located here.
Okay.
Uh, mhm.
You claim to fame, so that's kind of cool. So now, in terms of the travel and transportation, there are some people who like to drive a lot. What are the roads like within your state? Are they pretty well maintained? I know you guys get a lot of rain, so I don't know if potholes are a major issue within your area.
I would say potholes are a major issue, and maybe I'm just feeling some type of way because I was traveling one day back to New Mexico and I hit a pothole when it was raining and my tire just went flat.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh man.
So the roads could use some help, but in the defense of Arkansas, that is an interstate. So the federal needs to give us some funds. I will say,
Infrastructure, hearing it.
right, right. The interesting thing though that we're talking about this is because on the ballot, this election was, I forget what proposition it was, but it was to um have funds or allocate funds to fix the roads, the infrastructure the travel in Arkansas. So obviously they're acknowledging that there is a need to fix it.
Yeah, after a while. Now, in terms of airports, ports, and train depots within your state, what are the major airports? I would imagine Little Rock's probably the biggest airport within the state.
I want to say Little Rock, but I know there's a major one in Northwest Arkansas. I've never flown out of it. Because you can imagine there having to be one in Northwest Arkansas, considering the jobs and the major companies
Yeah,
being there. But as far as I know, it is the William and Hillary Clinton National Airport. There is no international airport.
okay. So it's a regional airport primarily.
Well, no, there's not a regional. So there is a regional airport in Texarkana, Arkansas, which is even smaller. They only have small carriers, maybe the connecting carriers.
Okay.
So that's the difference with and it's very limited, even limited more than a national airport.
Okay.
So it'll fly all around the country, but it doesn't fly out of the country, and therefore the tickets are much higher.
Yeah. Now, in terms of train transportation, is there like a robust train system within the state of Arkansas, or is it not that prominent?
Yes. So I know there is one location that my ex-husband and I actually not caught the train, I guess. Yeah. Rode the train out of Little Rock, which I never knew it existed because who actually, rides the train nowadays. But yeah, so the first and only time I rode the train, I actually was left at a bus depot in Texarkana, Arkansas. But that's a story. But yeah, so we do have a train system here, whatever the major one is throughout the country.
Okay. And then finally, something a little unique to Arkansas is that you don't have a ocean port, but you do have river ports along the Mississippi and the Delta region.
Yeah.
So are there any large major industry ports that come to mind for you?
No, but I know one is there because every time I am driving near the airport, I see the port for the river port
Mhm.
because there's also the Arkansas River that flows into the Mississippi River. The Arkansas River is actually pretty big. Um, so I know there is one there. I just don't know the name of it.
That's okay. And then in terms of tourism within your state,
Mhm.
what are like the biggest tourist attractions?
The Crater of Diamonds, which is near Hope, Arkansas.
Mm.
That's where they found the Hope Diamond. That's where it comes from.
Oh, I
Um,
did not know that.
yeah, Arkansas has one of the few active diamond craters in the
Hmm.
country.
Nice.
You can actually go there and look for diamonds. They just recently found one. It was a yellow diamond that was pretty big, and they found one that was actually bigger than the Hope diamond. So,
Really?
yeah, so that's why it's called the natural state. Not only do we have diamonds and plenty of forestry, but we have oil and lakes. But yeah, that's a big attraction. You have Hot Springs, which is a big attraction. Eureka Springs. Your Hot Springs and Eureka Springs, if you look into history, is a big spot for the gangsters back in the day, like your Al Capones.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so I would say those are the bigger attractions. Oh yeah. So as I talked about before, each one of these counties, we have our own um
Festivals.
festivals,
Yeah.
and each year the Food Network would come to the Arkansas Blossom Festival, which we have the World Steak Cook Off. And I mean it's really nice. It's kind of like a Hallmark movie.
Mm.
That it's that type of festival.
That's fun though. I mean, you get these festivals that happen that spring up all over the year. We don't see them that much here in California, but when you go across the states, they have different types of things that really showcase the types of cuisine and the different culture that you guys have in your specific state. So I think those are fun. It does seem like that would be something really to
There's
experience
something
and
called the
taste.
Purple Heart, right? It's something called the Purple Heart Pea Festival in a little town about 30 minutes south of here. I never went, but people like it.
Well, you'll have to go and tell us about it sometime.
Yeah, to answer your question, Arkansas has 3,039,000, yeah, people.
Population wise, very nice. In terms of the government, now a trend I am seeing as I'm doing more and more of these interviews is um, the state in general tends to be one way, but the cities in general tend to be democratic. So, in your specific state, the federal government and the two state senators, the representatives, are primarily conservative, and then when we get into Little Rock and places like that, they tend to be a little bit more democratic. Would am I right on that?
Yes, you're right. So as you said, the federal government representatives are more so conservative, which was disappointing. I was really hoping that Joyce won for Senate. But interesting though, many people in the more populous areas, voted Democratic, you know.
Did you guys
In
see a
Little Rock,
larger turnout this time around?
yeah, yes, we did. We
Okay.
did. And then and in places like Pine Bluff, which is a small city, about an hour, 45 minutes south of Little Rock, it was more democratic.
Okay.
It's just that the rural areas are, they rule.
Yeah. Well,
They
and that's okay. It's really interesting to see that dynamic, but it also lets people who are politicians know kind of where they need to focus and concentrate on in order to kind of educate and make sure that they're getting their policies across. Okay, and let's continue then. We're going to go into talking a little bit about the resources within the great state of Arkansas. Now, the things that come up to mind that I was doing some research on, rice along the Delta obviously is a staple, but then you have soybeans are a production that are really plentiful there. And then farming, you get the cattle farming, you get the chicken farming and ranches. Anything else I'm leaving out there?
no, you're not leaving anything out per se, as I discussed before. Once you travel along, going east of Arkansas near the Delta, you will find, everything. You will find rice on one side, on down the street. You can find cotton on the other.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, cotton's a huge
yeah,
production down there as well.
yes, cotton. It's interesting when I would drive to my ex in-laws to the Helena area. Um, you would see an old plantation house, and I mean, with the slave quarters and everything. It's
Mhm.
so interesting. And then on one side of the field in the back, you could see cotton or wheat. I can't remember. But on the other side of the street of the highway, you would see rice fields.
Hmm. So it's almost like
Yeah,
one side is staples for food and the other sides are staples for like textiles and things like that, or
right. And that's
production.
in the Mississippi Delta area because it's so rich with the soil is very rich in the Mississippi Delta. If you can imagine, sometimes that Mississippi River will flood, and come inland.
Mhm.
And I think years of that has, made it even, richer.
Nice. Okay, wonderful. Let's continue then into the education within the state. Now, the two big colleges that stand out to me, at least, are the University of
Mhm.
Arkansas and Arkansas State University. But you said that there are others as well that are really kind of prominent too.
Yeah. So overall, Arkansas has about 40 institutions of higher education.
Mhm.
So as you stated, the biggest is University of Arkansas, and then Arkansas State University. They're all within most of them are within the University of Arkansas system.
Mhm.
So University of Central Arkansas,
Mhm. Oh, yes.
the UCA Bears here in Conway, Arkansas, which is like 30 minutes outside, well, 40 minutes outside of Little Rock, where Euler is, University of Arkansas, Little Rock. I went to Southern Arkansas University, which is Southwest Arkansas. It's about population. It's a small university, but it's population about 4,000.
Mhm.
If you're not counting the Southern Arkansas University Tech, which
Mhm.
is 30 minutes north. Then you have University of Arkansas Monticello.
Okay.
And then you have University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, which is an historically Black college university, HBCU.
Yeah.
And you
Are there
have
any? Are there? I was going to say, are there any other HBCUs that are in the Arkansas area?
yes, you have Shorter College and you have Philander Smith University.
Okay.
Philander Smith is a private university.
Okay.
I believe there's about 10, maybe 12 private universities here. And then there's HSU, Henderson State University,
Okay.
which is a public university. I don't know if it's in the Arkansas, University of Arkansas, I don't know what you call it, system.
The system, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you have about 10 four-year institutions in Arkansas. I know Southern Arkansas University, the Mule Riders was ranked within the top 10 one year
Very
um,
nice.
across the country. Thank you.
Nice, nice, nice.
Um, but yeah, but you will find that anywhere in the South, really, plenty of universities. And unlike in Arizona, I want to say there's 2, 3 major universities.
Yeah, I want to say the really big ones are like University of Arizona and Arizona State University and uh,
NAU.
NAU. Yeah,
Yeah.
Northern.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a few, but I mean, don't get me wrong. There's like 1,000 universities in Arizona, but it's like
Right.
the big ones really rise to the top. Really quickly though, for all the higher education, there's also a literacy challenge as well within the state of Arkansas, or at least that's my general research on the area. Would you tend to agree with that statement? So in terms of the literacy rate, what's your take on that?
It's low. I know low is very broad, but I want to say, but it's low, but it's actually, if I remember, it's not as low as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I think in general, when you live in the United States, they try to bring up the scores around everywhere if they can.
Right, right, right. That's true. But just from what being, I hate to call myself an educator, but that's what I'm doing right now. Looking at the adults that are in my class, it's disheartening actually.
It's
Yeah.
unique. It's a unique problem that I've found. But you and I are both professors at this point,
Mhm.
and you teach at your school. I teach at my school, and one of the challenges I find is that there's a general there are some facts that are just generally not accepted. We talked about it a little bit earlier when we talked about certain textbooks won't relate certain events. Certain things are not general knowledge,
Right.
And that can become a problem. But even some of the more basic skills, and some of those challenges come about because there's not a lot of the funding going outside of the city areas. Like, for example, Little Rock might receive a huge amount of funding for its education, but the rural areas within that general surrounding community may not.
But you know what I find though? The
What's up?
rural areas, I believe, because the classroom was so much smaller, they actually, because I grew up in a rural area,
Yeah.
we, if you look at the rankings, it's not the larger school districts. I don't know if it's the oversight or the scrutiny that the teachers get. And that's what I hear from parochial school teachers, that they don't have as much autonomy
Okay.
in the classrooms. And just talking to parents and educators, people who are in the, parochial level, many of their students aren't even writing essays.
Mm.
And it was a requirement for me to take Comp 1 and 2.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's if the curriculum's not developed the same along every level, that can be a
Right.
problem. But then there's also then we get into the conversation about, okay, well, when you go to some places, and I'm going to bring race into this for just a second, because there
Yeah.
are
I
some,
mean, because that's a fact.
oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You get into some places where like a school that's predominantly white will get a lot of additional funding, whereas you get one that's predominantly black and they may not get as much funding because maybe they don't have the tax resources that are coming in from that general area, or for whatever reason policy just shifts in a way that they're not being allocated.
To a disadvantage. It's being
Correct.
shifted to disadvantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is where we
So,
get into the whole topic of systemic racism and everything that goes
right.
along with that,
Right.
which, by the way, leads us into our next slide as well.
Mhm.
And I want to just briefly touch base on this before we move forward. Um, just on a side note, I don't really think there's been any foreign terrorism threats of any note that have been in the state of Arkansas. But when I think of in terms of crime statistics, or when I think in terms of domestic terrorism, those have been challenges that the people of Arkansas have had to deal with for many years. And it does go along the racial lines in a lot of cases. So tell me a little bit about that.
So, when it comes to crime in Arkansas, for it to be a small population of no more than 3 million, much of the crime is I mean, it's a lot of crime, but
Yeah.
you don't realize it until you look at the stats,
Yeah.
because most of us are in our own bubble, as in anywhere. But most of the crimes are property crimes, really.
Okay.
Whether it's stealing a car, or I guess the proper term is a grand theft auto, or vandalism. You have a lot of people who are committing insurance fraud, against their own property. But I think that speaks to the state of the economy,
Yeah.
um, part of it. So, but one thing that is notably high is rape.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think the last time I checked, there were approximately 2,000 reported rape cases, rape incidents in 2019.
Mm.
Now, when we talk about systemic racism or hate crimes, or things that should be qualified as a hate crimes, um, I've read many reports where it should have been qualified as a hate crime and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that goes to the system, who is determining whether or not this is a hate crime,
Yeah.
right? So that's unfortunately a thing that we have to try to find a way to overcome that hump, to make sure it's rectified and punished uh, correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that statement, and you said it very eloquently there. It's one of those things that I think we have to take pause. We have to take note of. There are some areas of our country that we are advancing in, thankfully,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, other areas where we're not as advanced as we need to be in terms of our communication and in terms of our understanding. I think we are starting to see some movement, especially with like. I mean, in my opinion, at least, this is just my opinion,
Right.
but I think BLM has helped to bring things to the forefront. for a lot of us who are kind of laymen and want to understand more about these types of things that are going on within the African American community, within a lot of communities of color in general, whether
Right.
that's the Latino community, whether that's or Latinx community, more specifically within the indigenous community. There's a lot of different things that are going on throughout all of the states that I think members of the white community are just not privy to. And it's one of those things where if we just, as we said earlier in this, shut up and listen, I think we're going to see hopefully some welcome changes as we continue to move along through this process. And again, I'm not trying to be political here, but I'm just saying change is a constant, and change is one of those things that I think we're going to see help us grow as a nation.
You have to want to change, again, not to get too political, and I'm gonna say this, I'll be done, but you have some people who are just set in their way and thinking this is the way things have always been, this is the way it has to be, even if I've come across it, even if they know that certain things are wrong,
Yeah.
right? It's just this whole feel or need to be superior that will make someone be closed, their ear, to the facts and the reality.
Do you think, just out of curiosity, because we are both professors, do you think it's just that we are more open to those things in general? We see that, especially in like a college environment, or is it social dynamics and social change that help to move us in a different direction?
I think a little bit of both, because you have to have the wherewithal to even process it and rationalize it, in my opinion. And then for me, just being around, now I can't say I've experienced extreme racism or blatant racism in my life. I have not, but I have seen and I've recognized it systemically against myself, like questioning, my ability, my knowledge, and then I have to go in there armored, 10 times more than the next person. Yeah. Right. So I've experienced it that way, not just as a Black person, but as a woman. So I get it 2 times 2.
Yeah.
So I think experience, and as you said, being in a college environment of intellectuals, we would hope, to kind of use common sense and understanding. That's why it's a big push. And I wrote my thesis paper on it for officers to require them to have a 4-year degree, because statistics show that most officers who are involved in officer-involved shootings or just excessive force, they don't have a 4-year degree. And many people who have a 4-year degree know how to rationalize and understand and using more de-escalation techniques and patience with suspects.
Absolutely. Before we conclude, I just want to do one quick thing really quick with you. So to end on a more positive note, so I have a free ticket. I'm going to fly anywhere in the country. I want to go to Arkansas. Give me like a quick 1-minute elevator speech. Why do I want to go to Arkansas? Just throw it out there.
Well, you will want to go to come here to Arkansas to experience things you haven't experienced, especially if you're not an outdoors person. There's plenty to do. You can go on the water, or you can go to many lakes that we have and just relax. And one of the resorts that we have, experience the hot springs. They don't call it hot springs for nothing. If you want to go a more eclectic place and still be in the mountainous area, we have Eureka Springs. If you want to experience high energy, great weather, go to one of our football games, whether it's the Arkansas Razorbacks or the UCA Bears or the Southern Arkansas Mule Riders. The energy is ecstatic, it's exciting no matter where you are. Or try some of our great cuisine. I'm sure you will love it.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, I want to thank you so much. It has been a wonderful time interviewing you here. Again, thank you so much for your time. It really means the world to me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, for my students that are out there, if you have any questions or comments, you can certainly send them to me at scott@theprofessortravel.com. If you like this video and you'd like to see more content like this, please give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. If you want to be notified about when new videos do go up, hit that little bell icon right above us if you're in YouTube right now, and that'll let you know about that. If you haven't already subscribed, Please feel free to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. We really appreciate it. And then finally, if you're hearing us on the podcast, please feel free to rate us, review us. We really do appreciate it. So until next time, my name is Scott. I am the Professor Travel, and make every day a travel adventure. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.